flashing. Tells me you're all super good. The green screen in place. Yep, there we go. Right, so there we go. So welcome everybody to this week's Retail Risk podcast. Delighted to have you with us. And I'm even more delighted to welcome John Mantle, National Loss Prevention Manager at American Golf, as this week's guest. So John, welcome.
Thank you.
Now, I understand, and people are amazed when I tell them as well, 30 years experience across a number of retailers. Obviously, you've stayed on the retail side. The Link, I love that. I remember the Link. I even applied for a job at the Link and they turned me down. Maybe you got it. I don't know. Wilko's, Allied Carpets, and then latterly American Golf. But I want to start, as I often like to do, way back when, young Mr. Mantle's at school, whatever point of school you got to, you sat there thinking about your career. Was it always retail? Was it always an interest in what the naughty guys and girls are up to? The head shaking?
No, it wasn't. Yeah, you are.
The picture of the mountain in the background, was it? Yeah, were you a Sir Ranulph Fiennes wannabe? Talk to me about those early days and how you got through to where you are at American Golf.
Well, to be honest, I think it all started when I was at college, and I realised that by having a part-time job, you could earn money, and it wasn't too bad working. So I think it kind of sort of defocused the college education and went into retail. And very quickly, I was asked to be an evening supervisor, which was really about managing the stock in the evenings for Wilkinson's, where a huge amount of turnover of product. Put them back on the shelves, and you had to count in. In the old days, the inventory control was very long-winded, etc. And I kind of loved that. And at that time, Wilko's was growing and kept opening bigger stores, and the responsibility kept growing. And then it was just a natural progression. I think the business actually took me into, making it a career, in the sense that they were offering me assistant manager positions and that sort of stuff. And then over time, I think I probably fell out of love a little bit with Wilkinson's, or the role. It's very hard work, etc. And technology was coming in, and the switch to the Link was more about, wow, there's mobile phones. What do these do? Is in the days when internet was just being created. So I remember in my first week, it was the first time I ever went online, which was pretty much in the days when all you could pretty much do was talk to somebody. It was very slow, but it was interesting, and you kind of get hooked into it. And then after you become a manager, after a while, it's like, well, what next? So if I'm honest, I always wanted to probably be a regional manager, because that was the role that I think everyone aspired to. And if I'm honest, it was something in the Link that was fun, etc. It was a growing business, but that became hard to get. So I remember being told that if I wanted to be a regional manager, I'd have to go work for Curry's or Dixon's. And if I'm honest, washing machines don't really interest me. So they created a role for me at the time, which was kind of an operations manager, which was very, I would guess, 50% operations, but 50% looking after the team of people that used to go around the stores to make sure that the stores were doing absolutely everything right. And I remember there was a time where we uncovered a significant fraud. We're talking about £1 million fraud at that point. Okay. And it kind of got exciting, because suddenly you're talking to senior detectives and you're kind of thinking, wow, I'd love to bring these people down. Unfortunately, the Link disappeared from the high street, and we never actually got to see all that out. And it was then a case of, okay, what do I do now? So probably lost for a couple of years, went to work for Allied Carpets, which was different completely. And then
I'm just going to jump in there. So what were you doing at Allied? Was it shop floor, running the stores? I have to ask. I'm really interested in the thread, that was all.
So strangely enough, I applied for a regional manager position, but so did my colleague from the Link, who was actually a regional manager. We both got taken on, but what they had is they had some short-term plans for me, which was to go and look after extra care units. Extra care is like a charitable foundation, or that's how I believe it operates. And what they do is they build these sort of villages for retirement. And they're phenomenal places, to be honest. When I'm in a in 30 or 40 years' time when I retire, that's the sort of place I'd love to go, because it literally is a village in a building, and there's a bar and a pub that's run by the residents and such. But we used to have the contracts to carpet and floor everything, so it's making sure managed. And but again, it's life. Allied Carpets went into administration, things changed. It became a bit of a beast, and I looked for something else. And luckily, there were some people that had worked within the link in American Golf. And at the time, the business was full of golfers running retail units. They wanted to bring in some retail skill. So that was what I was brought into the business for. And lo and behold, the sort of things we were uncovering, it transformed into a loss prevention role. So never had any intention to become a loss prevention professional, but genuinely, it's probably, for me, the thing which has made the biggest difference to my life, because it's a great industry to be in.
And I have to just call out, and I'm sure many people will remember this, when we had the inaugural Fraud Awards, and there was some, no disrespect to American Golf, but some big, sort of flashy retail names that entered and then got shortlisted, and then ultimately, and remember, this is an all retailer judging panel, as everybody listening can probably recall, but you guys got Loss Prevention Team of the Year almost from nowhere, and it kind of came, but the submission about what you guys have been doing was absolutely off the chart. And fair play to the judges for actually, if you like, putting aside prejudices and thinking that this Swish brand or that Swish brand was going to be top of the tree. You got that award from your peers, and I remember it still to this day. And it was the catalyst. Since then, it was amazing. It happened in the first year. The number of underdog type retailers and other people that have been nominated and put themselves forward, and I still credit it with that night when you got that. So I mean that was amazing. And I remember you were properly made up, and I think genuinely surprised, if I remember reactions correctly.
I think we were drunk, to be honest. And I genuinely think that night we didn't believe we stood a chance. We did see the big names that were competing against us. So actually, I can't remember. I think it was Asda that might have come runners up. And at that point, we thought, no, that's it. We're gone. And then when we had our name out, I think we looked around the table at each other and thought, did you just say American Golf? And it probably took us 2 minutes before we realised we'd won. But you know what? That was transformational for us, genuinely for the people, the part of the team, to actually just give them that little bit of confidence that they were doing the right things. And if I'm honest, it's something which we hope to win again on the basis that we've had to, I suppose, go back to roots and reinvent ourselves over the last few years. Because that was probably when we were at our best. And then for a couple of years, we went through administration. We kind of defocused, and then we had to pretty much, go back to where we were when we started that journey, which ended with us obviously winning that award. So it was great.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. And you're right. I think the individuals within that team got recognition as well. And I think, yourself and, those people within that team, names got known. I think there was a few speaking invites and various, and it was great for the brand and great for the individual. So no, it's, from my point of view, I remember it fondly as well. And I didn't want to call out the drunk bit, but I think the celebrations were in full flow. Let's say that. I think 2 o'clock in the morning that you still didn't want to leave, but unfortunately, I think you had to go and take your celebrations elsewhere. Now, you did mention administration that American Golf went through, and I want to just ask you about, because I know I've heard you talk before about some of the challenges around shrink that happened at that time. Can you maybe just give the audience a little bit of a flavor of what that looked like, what you did, and how you refocused?
Yeah, well, probably 18 months before we went through administration. I think the way our team, we'd hit the heights. Our shrinkage was pretty much at that time non-existent. And we'd gone from more than £1 million a loss from our retail estates to under £100,000. And everything was going all right. And I think the business suddenly thought, we don't need to focus on this. It became harder and harder to cut through. So I pretty made the decision myself that I was going to sort of move on, find the next role, and this was before Christmas. But I got asked to look after a region for a period of time as a regional manager, and yeah, it's what I'd always wanted to do, I suppose. So I gave it a go. I had nothing to lose. I did that for about 18 months, and in that time, the focus of the loss prevention team had been completely transformed. So instead of collaborative sort of approach with other departments, it was kind of in the corner, in the dark room of the head office, and they were focused on compliance, not trying to help people do things better. So shrinkage grew, and it grew to, again, over £1 million. I left the business, but they asked me to come back a few months later. I kind of took a sabbatical. And when I came back, I couldn't believe where we'd gone from where we were at. Literally, we were going in stores and we were writing off £50,000 at a time. It was completely out of control. And lo and behold, a few months after that, we went through administration. And if I'm honest, I think that the fact that we'd lost control of our business was probably one of the biggest contributions. So we got new investors that came on board. You kind of have a responsibility then to make sure that the business survives and that the people, remain in the job. And American Golf, the people that work for American Golf, they love it. It does touch you personally, and you've got to make sure that those numbers change. So we also got a different management team, and that management team almost gave us a green light to go and do what we needed to do. And it's not always popular things that we have to do. Sometimes we're going to sort of ruffle a few feathers, etc., like that. But I think that the people understood that we needed to do that to actually get to the end result. We increased our control, and I think we got lucky with the new team of LP team. So we've completely changed our team around. But they kind of had, because they were all internal appointments, they'd all seen what LP was like in the good days. So they were able to adapt the sort of way that we approach things, and the results were phenomenal. So we've had a good time. We reduced our shrinkage down to 0.19, which is actually our record. And this last 12 months, we've even reduced it down to 0.09. So, I'd like to, I don't believe any other retailer is going to be quite close to that. So, and it's not just a result that we're proud of, it's a result that every single manager and most of the colleagues in the stores, they're proud of as well. We do a massive thing about celebrating that. And sometimes we get more cut through than the regional managers do, which is sometimes dangerous, but it's essential because you can't be working really hard to put sales in the till and then just lose it through the back door. It's just criminal when you do that.
And so impressive. So not only did you do it once, get the accolade for it, you then had to go back and do it all over again. So I guess fair play for having the enthusiasm to knuckle down and get that done. But yeah, as you say, new investors, new responsibility to bring that back down. And yeah, I know it's going from strength to strength. Now, one area also I've heard you talk about in the past is, you had big challenges around OCGs and what they were doing, and you brought in some third-party providers. So I'd like you to expand on that if you can. I'm also conscious that we have an international audience and some of the terminology isn't the same around the world. So, 101, right back to the beginning, what do OCGs mean to you? And then maybe how you've tackled that. But just before you answer that, it's only right that we just take a pause. I'm going to have a quick word from our sponsors, Sensormatic. And then when we come back, John, I'd like to pick up and run with that.
Now, more than ever, retailers and shopping centres need to create efficient and safe shopping destinations that thrive in the most challenging of market conditions. Retailers need to be able to know exactly what merchandise is available on the sales floor and stockroom, to quickly identify and respond to shrink and shoplifting events, and to understand footfall and shopper density across their properties, and comply with regulations. Sensormatic derives new insights and outcomes from complex data streams to help retailers and shopping centres make better business decisions. Visit us at sensormatic.com to learn more.
So welcome back. Thank you for that. John, over to you.
Yeah, so OCGs, organised crime gangs, bane of our lives. I think as a retailer, if you've got people that are targeting you in a group, that you have to force a way for them to leave your business and potentially focus on other people. Obviously, the organised crime gangs, they're not just about thieves. They're probably connected to much bigger problems in society, etc. But the people at the top basically turn around and say, look, we've got a way to get golf clubs out of the country or turn them into profit. So go and target American golf or golf retailers. Our industry, golf, we have roughly about 100 stores. There's roughly 1,200 golf outlets in the UK. So although we have the biggest market share because we have the biggest stores, we have the biggest profile, we're a fraction of the units that are out there. So they can go and target whatever area they want to. So as an industry, genuinely, we weren't working together. They see us as the enemy. They find it very difficult to collaborate with us. So we have to find a way to get the golf industry together and send a message to these organised crime gangs. And we were suffering literally burglaries every couple of weeks. Some of these were substantial, 30, 40,000 pound losses. And it's not just the loss, it's the disruption to the trade. It's the morale. I've been there where we've had managers who've been targeted 2 or 3 times, and they literally are breaking point, tears and that sort of stuff. So you've got to deal with them for them. The most concerning ones, though, is when you've got groups of 4 or 5 coming into the stores, pretty much saying to the colleagues, stand aside, because if you get in our way, we'll hurt you. We have had a manager seriously assaulted because of these organised crime gangs, and they will do it every single day of the week. So it's relentless, and it eats you up inside. So I was just driving one day, and I suddenly had this thought: what did we do in the old link days in mobile phones? And for anybody that was around the mobile phone days, they will remember that street crime was a problem. So I think the Met Police, along with all the different mobile networks and the retailers, Phones for You, Car Phone, and the brands, realised that they needed to do something. So they got together, and I think that was where probably the National Police Crime Register was created. Sorry, Property Register was created, and they encouraged people to register the serial numbers of the handsets online. And the benefit of that is because nobody will remember their serial number, their IMEI. That was where they could log on and say, my phone's been stolen or I've lost it, and they can block it, which makes it absolutely useless to the criminals that have stolen it, which pretty much meant that the people that were robbing people in the streets, they probably had a 50-50 chance of getting something they could use and sell on. And it had a big impact. I just remember being a manager at the time and thinking, wow, this is a great scheme. It really does make a difference. So I tried to find out whether it was still operating, because I hadn't heard of it for years, and it was. So then I just simply dropped one of these forms on their website where it says get in touch, and I did. And I just sort of said, I'd like to talk about an opportunity. Within 10 minutes, someone's on the phone. Within an hour, we're thinking there is something here. So we met up, but I didn't want it to be an American golf thing, because as I said before, we're sometimes seen as the big, bad, evil, sort of corporate kind of arm of golf. I wanted to bring some other players in. So I got in touch with the biggest reseller of secondhand golf gear. I invited others. They didn't want to come and join it, but we went and we had this discussion. And in this one afternoon, we pretty much scoped out what we wanted to do. And that was pretty much what we got mobile phone users to do 20 years ago, which is whenever they buy any golf gear, register the serial number online. And it's amazing that actually nobody around that table actually realized that golf clubs have serial numbers. None of them have, even though they're in that industry, none of them realized it. So then we created the database, the website, the social, we got all the golf press together, and we did a big launch. And one of the things that we came out of it was a retail pack as well. So it's a product which helps to identify the golf gear. And Moby Golf was just born. Now, I don't think that that's the only thing that we did. We've done a lot of other things where we've been disruptive, but I think the fact that we were able to go to golf press and get a little bit of national press to sort of say the golf industry is doing something about this was enough to make those organised crime gangs think they're higher risk. And we dramatically saw the number of incidents stop. So literally, okay, it's been a difficult period of time, I suppose, but we literally haven't for nearly 2 years now had guys go into store and tell our colleagues to step aside. So from it being every day, every couple of days, it virtually stopped.
Wow.
And just to be able to say to our colleagues, hey, we're doing something for you. We know the pain that you've suffered, and we know that some of you, it can't be nice to suffer those sort of things. we're on your side is massive, and it gives us a little bit of support when we're trying to do other things with them.
And fantastic. And I guess, now that's been up and running and the industry can see the benefit, have some of those independents now come on board? Is the percentage of the market that's supporting it, has that increased over time?
Yeah, well, it has. The way that we've structured it is that, the people that are in the middle, which is an organisation called Recipero, they operate the property register for the police. They've got all the contacts in the place. They're the ones that do all that knitting together. And there's golf clubs who have every single member, as part of their membership, they've all been given one of these packs and told to register their clubs free of charge, because the service is absolutely free. The retail pack costs people money, but the service of registering online is absolutely free. So why would you not do it? And the idea there is that those golf clubs can pretty much put a sign on the gate that sort of says, don't bother coming and robbing anything from our golfers' cars, because that's what golfers do. They've played 18 holes and then they go to the bar afterwards and have a couple of pints. So the number of cars that are broken into on car parks is phenomenal.
Wow, okay.
Just about stopping, I suppose, us from losing money. This was about trying to force people out of our industry. So yeah, and Recipero have got a number of clients that basically already operate in that.
Yeah, great collaborative, initiative there. So would you say that is your favorite and best piece of technology that's had the biggest impact on reducing loss, or is there something else that you use maybe just unique to American golf that's had a big sway also?
So I think going back to what you said about when we won our awards, and it's no different today, our budgets are slim. So we have to be, I describe a little bit old school, where we do the things we probably did before we had technology. And I'm the type of person as well where I don't always trust the reports that you get. I like to lift the rocks up myself and have a look underneath them. I'm a problem solver. So there's a number of things that we do, and we do have a number of good partners. We use Watchdog for our eBay tracking, etc. And sometimes we get a little bit of disruption because we identify somebody that's coming and stolen some of our goods. We're very good with the serial numbers ourselves now, so it's great to be able to see a picture on eBay, just zoom in, see the serial number, put it into our database, and go, got you. Do you know what I mean? Now, it's quite difficult. And this week, we've actually had somebody that has been charged for doing some fraud in our business from our old customer services team.
Oh, okay.
Just of £17,000, 2 years, 2 months ago. It's taken that long to get police charges. So if you want to disrupt people, sometimes you've got to be able to go and disrupt them yourselves. And through Watchdog, we've disrupted a couple of the organised crime gangs ourselves. But the best one that we had last year was, we only had one burglary where we lost substantial amounts. And we lost £32,000 worth of goods. And we found another golf retailer selling the goods online.
Oh.
Selling some of our own brand products. So it was very easy to track. Got in touch with the police. Yeah, we'll get round to it, that sort of stuff. So I went the next day, and I needed to prove that he was selling our own goods. And it was just a case of going, right, I think you're selling our own goods. And before I left, he'd agreed to pay us £38,000. So
wow.
£2,000. And within half an hour of me leaving the premises, £38,000 had come into our bank account. But he also gave me the details of the person that sold him the goods. Really credible information. It wasn't, somebody that was using a telephone. He was known, and passed that to the police. So again, disrupting up the chain, etc., like that. So Watchdog for us has been phenomenal. I think you've got to surround yourself with the right partners. But for a business that our shrinkage is now under £60,000 a year. You're not going to spend 200 grand, are you, to improve things? So you've got to be smart, and that's the bit that I like. I think if I had big budgets, I don't think I'd enjoy myself so much.
Wow. Okay. So just imagine for one brief moment that you are given that unlimited budget. Is there anything from a technology perspective you think, oh, that I would like that? I know, not going to dilute your enjoyment, but what have you seen out there that you think, oh, that might be quite nice?
I'd either buy a box at Goodison Park,
yeah,
for team meetings, obviously.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, or I don't know. I think I'd probably spend a little bit more on people. Maybe just build the team up a little bit more, because sometimes it is a little bit stretched. And the team that I've got, You know, they do have to bend and flex, and sometimes they put far too much effort in. But I applaud them for that, to be honest. I genuinely do. But I think we probably would just future-proof ourselves a little bit more. But whatever technology we spent it on would have to almost do what we're doing, just a little bit faster. Just bring a few more, you know, it's data, isn't it? And especially when you're looking at online, just a few more things that actually are telling you, look, this could be a red flag. And, you know, I'd still lift the rocks up myself and I'd still do the old school way. But yeah, I think that's where I'd probably spend it on.
Yeah. Or maybe arrive at that competitor selling your branded gear in a bigger and flashier car. I don't know, maybe that'd be useful.
I'm not materialistic. I'm an Everton fan, Paul.
Well, I was about to say, for anybody listening that wonders, Goodison Park, that is the home of a small English soccer team called Everton, that are in the Premier League, but I think just below the glorious Leicester City at the moment. But anyway, that's a different conversation for another time. Now, it's a non-risk and LP question, but I think I'm right in saying American Golf are getting into the restaurant business. Is that not right? So,
yeah.
What does that look like?
So let me be honest, Paul, the last couple of years have been really busy. They've been really hard, you know, because we're driven and, you know, we don't genuinely, we just don't rest up until we absolutely have nailed absolutely everything. And business keeps throwing new things at us. So we're opening a food and bev. We're opening our own driving ranges. So we've only ever really had retail, but we already have 2 driving ranges. We've got a 3rd coming along. We're just buying a golf course. With
okay.
Conference facilities. But you know what? There's so many food and bev laws. It's unbelievable. I thought that there was loads for health and safety. So we look after health and safety as well. But you know, it's literally, you have to check your fridge so many times and fill in so much paperwork. I really pity those people that have to do that full time. But luckily, I've got a colleague in my team who's just learning everything, and he's phenomenal, Michael is, and he's just making sure that, you know, we set ourselves up for when these finally do open, where, you know, we're in full control and market leading as far as the way that we do things. We've just invested, there's a product out there called iAuditor, which is basically a form filling kind of software. I think even what we do is probably leading them a little bit, and you know, the way that we're doing is we're automating things, because to be honest, we've got to work smarter as things expand. You know, there's just so much, the health and safety, you know, let's be honest about it. I bet there's very few people who will listen to this podcast that have to worry about tractors. I will.
It's and so is the brand strategy then to get a you know, an estate of golf courses, and the food and beverage side, just help me understand, is this in the golf course, or are these going into the stores, or are we going to see a standalone golf branded Starbucks wannabe on a retail park near you?
You never know. If things work, I think you roll it out, don't you? So we're pretty comfortable that we, you know, the driving ranges give us a little bit of extra security. So, you know, retail is challenging. I think, you know, let's be honest, in 5 years' time, we don't know how many retailers will exist. We're quite fortunate that for people to buy golf clubs, they have to go into our stores to get tested for them. You know, they go through custom fit processes and leave with the best clubs for themselves, and then they're custom fit for them, you know, and sent straight from the factory with their own sort of setup. So we always have a retail estate. We can't just go totally online, but more and more people are going there. So what you've got to do really is look at your sites and look at how you can make a little bit more money from them. So golf, it's a leisure industry. If we've got driving ranges, we should be looking at having restaurants on them. And what it does is it then puts a little bit of a foundation behind the business. And, you know, we're going to have adventure golfs. So these will be complexes and, you know, full of activity, etc. And the retail part will just be a little bit part of that. But that's quite good for me. I think the investors obviously are looking to grow the business and make it more economical for them. From our perspective, what it does is, I suppose, it gives us job security for a lot longer.
Yeah, absolutely fascinating. Of course, you're quite right. You know, for you guys, it is all about the retail experience, isn't it? And that doesn't look like changing anytime soon. So, you know, great strategy to make every visit to anything American golf a fun activity. And I always said to myself when I was old, I would learn to play golf. I'm north of 50 now, and I can still just about hack my way around a pitch and putt. So, you know, maybe I need to get even more familiar with it, with American golf. Perhaps some lessons from you, John.
No, I'm quite realistic. I'm quite good at LP. I'm sure I'm not the best, but I'm certainly not the best at golf, to be honest. In fact, actually, at the moment, we're just designing our own American golf insurance to sell to the general public, and I will need to be the first person that buys it in case anybody gets seriously hurt if I take another golf shot.
Fantastic. Well, on that note, John, it's been an absolute pleasure. Some real gems that you've shared with the listeners today. Thank you so much for being my guest on this edition of the Retail Risk Podcast. It's a pleasure, and it always is.
Right.